migrants in New York City reportedly are refusing to stay in that makeshift shelter set up in Brooklyn, paid for by the taxpayers. And now some have returned to the Roosevelt Hotel where they were housed in Manhattan. Others, meanwhile, are looking for tickets back home, reportedly, skewering the argument that some of these asylum seekers are not that, but maybe economic opportunists. Correspondent Mike Carter live in New York City. He's got the details. The migrants are done with the shelter. They want to go back to the Roosevelt. Mike.
Yeah, they do. Some of them are still here, Sean. Well, that new tent facility that was just built in Brooklyn a couple of months ago was supposed to help alleviate some of the crowdedness at temporary facilities like this one at the Roosevelt Hotel. But those migrants, once they were bused to those new tents in Brooklyn, now demanding better accommodations. Take a look at this video shot over the weekend. This is a group of illegal immigrants that were bused to Floyd Bennett Field in Brooklyn on Sunday. The site is part of a national park located in the southeastern portion of New York City. It's expected to hold up to 2,000 people, but shortly after arriving to that field on Sunday, many of those migrants were immediately loaded back onto a bus to head back into Manhattan, right here to the Roosevelt Hotel, after many complained that they had jobs in the city and that their kids would be too far away from their schools if they stayed in Brooklyn. But according to recent data, only about 2% of the approximate 140,000 illegal migrants who've come to New York City over the past year have applied for work authorization. That's something that was pushed for by New York Governor Kathy Hochul and New York City Mayor Eric Adams. Of that 140,000, more than 65,000 illegals are currently being housed in more than 200 city-run shelters. Right now, however, it's unknown how many of the tens of thousands of adult migrants staying in city-run shelters are even eligible to work, because the city, state, and federal government have not fully been tracking the illegal immigrants after they cross over the border. Meanwhile, in Chicago, some illegals are looking for tickets back to their home countries as colder weather sets in. Illegal immigrants in the Windy City have been sleeping on city streets and even inside police precincts and airports for months now. And some are now reconsidering those plans here in the United States. One migrant telling the Chicago Tribune, quote, "If we're going to be sleeping in the streets here, we'd rather be sleeping in the streets over there." Back in New York City, Mayor Eric Adams, who's currently embroiled in an FBI investigation over corrupt fundraising practices, has been traveling back and forth to South America over the last few months to tell migrants to stay away from New York. He's even ordered flyers be sent to the border saying that New York City is at capacity and has an expensive cost of living. And right now, we just recently heard one of the migrants behind me, Sean, saying no trabajo, no work. There is no work here in New York City. Those migrants lined up outside of the Roosevelt Hotel. You can see the number of motorbikes that are also being lined up. That's been causing the city problems, those bikes being parked on city streets over the last several months. Right now, the city is trying to put an end to its right to shelter laws. Migrants with families are now being given 60-day notices to be able to stay in facilities like this one, the Roosevelt Hotel. Single adult male migrants, 30 days, and then they're out on the streets. So this is a crisis that isn't going anywhere, just seems to be shifting around where the city is placing them. Sean?
Look, perhaps policy removal is not needed. If there's no work for them and it's too cold outside and they're wanting to return to Texas, that may be a reason to alleviate the problem altogether right there. Weather. Mike Carter joining us live outside the Roosevelt, where, again, a lot of them wanting to return. They didn't like Tent City and go back to that very plush hotel. Mike, thank you.